I'm Doug Massey, and today, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna share my extremely controversial opinion on what I like to refer to as the 3 types of insurance agents that I speak with pretty much on a daily basis. Insurance agent numero uno, this guy or gal is a top producer and earns, like, I want to say at least more than 90% of the United States working class will ever make. Insurance agent number 2, this agent will never earn very much money and will always struggle to get by, if not completely fail. Then you got agent number 3. Now, this agent is doing every single thing that it takes today so that one day they will be exactly like agent number 1, a top earner. So here's a question for you. Are you either a top earner, or are you doing whatever it takes to get there? Or are you just watching this video because you got some time to kill? Please let me know in the comments section below. And if you'd like a copy of both the living will and the last will and testimony that you can use for yourself, your friends, your family, or even during your life insurance and or final expense sales presentation, stick around till the end of the video and I'm going to show you how to get both of these guys for yourself. Let's start out by talking about the top producer, agent number 1. Now, first off, this guy or gal is highly, like insanely motivated. Total go-getter. And in general, the one thing that I've noticed that most top earners have in common is kids, believe it or not, children. Now, for whatever reason, it seems like a majority of the producers that I've worked with are married or have been married or are living with their spouse and child or children. Maybe financially they've got more pressure and have no choice but to push themselves to the limit and work their butts off. They gotta make the money. Another thing that I've noticed about the top producer is that they usually have either been very successful with other businesses or were pretty talented, like maybe in sports. And it's funny, it seems like high school basketball or baseball, even college football, which reminds me that, brings this up. I actually know an insurance agent who is a professional boxer. Another thing that I've noticed about top producers is that they just don't stop, man. I mean, once they get started and get the momentum going in the business, they rarely will take time off, and they seem to always keep pushing the envelope. Seriously professional too. And it's more than just work ethic. It's like they have this internal on switch that doesn't have any other settings. It's like full speed ahead all the time, like constantly. So let's talk about agent number 3. We're gonna get back to agent number 2 later. And agent number 3, these are the guys and gals that are doing the work today so that they can earn the big bucks tomorrow. And this agent has a lot of similarities to our top producer, agent number 1. First off, they see the big picture and they've got no problem doing whatever it takes to come up with, whatever money it takes, I want to say, in order to bankroll their insurance business. They also tend to come off as being like absolute consummate professionals to the client. Look, 90% of the life insurance agents that actually fail in our industry only do so because A, they either don't have the work ethic, or B, they don't have the cash. They don't have the funds to invest into their business while they're cutting through the learning curve. Agent number 3 does. They work their butt off and reinvest all their profits while they're cutting through the learning curve. They go above and beyond to make sure that they close as many sales as humanly possible, and will even spend more money on top of more money in order to get in, like, I want to say, a much higher than average amount of presentations while they're cutting through the learning curve. So there's no dipping their toe in. There's like, boom, full speed ahead right from the start. And back when I first got into face-to-face final expense sales, I remember struggling to get in like just a few presentations, I want to say, per day. And it really wasn't that easy. And as soon as I realized that I just needed more leads, along with the assistance of maybe like a really good appointment setter, then I'd be able to get in a lot of presentations. I basically went from having maybe like 3 to 5 appointments today, and then to like 5 to 8 appointments per day, then finally got it down to the point where I was seeing like 10 to 12 people a day. And there were days when I would drive across the entire state, it seemed like, in order to run believe it or not, up to 14 appointments in a single day. Meanwhile, I was getting stronger at making my sales presentations, and I was getting better and better and better at closing the sales and dealing with the objections. At one point, I remember feeling like, I know this sounds funny, but it's true. I remember feeling as if I was almost hypnotizing people into buying, and believe it or not, was closing right around 8 sales every time I hit the street. This is how that agent number 3 thinks. They know that they have to do what it takes to get in more presentations, therefore more sales, and inadvertently this ends up making them a top producer. I've seen agents go from like just getting by to suddenly producing at a really high level. It seemed like overnight sometimes. And I've also worked with agents who are, I want to say, almost there. You know, like it's like they were almost there and then they would quit right before the light came on. Guys, everybody has a different learning curve. I get that. Agent number 3 stays steady. They hang in there no matter what, and eventually they make the cut. Let's talk about agent number 2. Basically the struggler, I hate to use that word, but it's true, who, well, they never really get anywhere in our industry. And unfortunately, most of the people that I actually speak with that have interest in selling final expense insurance actually fail. And let me give you one example of why. Back in the day when everyone was selling face-to-face, you know, that was the way to do it. Agents would come into my agency, they'd get on a weekly fixed direct mail lead order, they would call a set appointments, and then of course you door knock in between the appointments, the leads that you can't, get the appointment with. And that's the old school way of selling final expense insurance. You know, back then, we just didn't have the technology that we have today. And what would happen next is basically, well, what separated the producers from the strugglers. The agent would find a good appointment setter just like I did. Then, instead of doing what I did, instead of increasing their leads each week to the point to where, their appointment setter could book up their days like solid, like they were slammed, instead, the agent would simply use the appointment setter so that they didn't have to set the appointments themselves. Now, hang in there for a second. This would inadvertently give the agent free time, and instead of pushing themselves to sell more, to make more presentations, more sales, they would just kind of settle on making things easier and literally end up doing less and less while they were cutting through the learning curve. This is a failed mentality that comes with most insurance agents. I hate to say it, I'm pretty sure it just comes with most people in general. Instead of thinking, what can I do to get in more sales and make a lot more money, they just kind of settle for doing less work and accept the same old results. And then what would happen most of the time, a few months later, if it even lasted that long, they'd be done. They'd be out. Again, agent number 1, the top producer, and agent number 3, the agent that will become the top producer, always, always, always does whatever it takes to make more sales and more money. Meanwhile, the majority of people that I speak with, I want to describe as agent number 2, the one that pretty much will never make it in our business, might actually think that they're going to do whatever it takes when they first start, because I hear that all the time, but inadvertently they end up, settling for just getting by and or totally failing and moving on to the next best thing. Here's the worst part, the ugly truth. This failed agent will most likely end up working a full-time, regular 9-to-5 job where they inadvertently have to work harder in the long run, only to end up making a lot less money than what they could have been making as an insurance agent. The thing is, they settle for that guaranteed amount of money each week. They stick it out for years and years and years. And in the end, the failed agent hits that retirement age, and now their main source of income usually ends up being Social Security benefits, which, as we all know, is hardly enough to get by on, and or, I want to say have anything close to what I would call a comfortable retirement lifestyle. And the next thing you know, a final expense agent ends up knocking on their front door to sell them like a $5,000 or $10,000 life insurance policy, which inadvertently ends up being something they can barely afford to buy. Sound familiar? And now, instead of leaving a legacy to their family, with a very nice income, they're barely leaving the family enough insurance money to cover their own cremation, just like a majority of our low/fixed income final expense clients. So instead of being the agent, they end up being the client. Ouch. If you'd like a copy of the Last Will and Testament along with that Living Will kit that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, just email me at doug@ufesonline.com. For more information on working with us and having access to the strongest final expense sales platform in the industry, just shoot me an email at that same address. As always, guys, when you put the needs of your clients first, everything else will usually fall right into place. Now get out there and do something good for someone today. Happy hunting.